So what would you think, or rather, who would you think has the leverage, the power, and the control between someone that's asking for something and the person that actually gets asked for something? Hello, and welcome to New Day, Same B.S. My name is CT Dice, and this is basically something new that I'm doing on the channel. It's basically monologues, kind of keep it short and just bring up a few topics and see if that can actually start a conversation in general. I'm calling it New Day, Same B.S. It's going to be on the No Right, No Wrong channel as well. And for the first episode, which is this, I'm going to be starting off with some violence. But it's an interesting topic that I just wanted to bring up. And it's mainly centered around leverage, control, and power. And when it comes to that conversation, I actually want to go in two different directions specifically, or a couple contexts for that conversation. First, I would look at it when it comes to dating in the West or democratic countries in that case. And also, I would also be looking at it when it comes to the relationship between an employer and an employee. But the first question I would like to ask in this conversation, and if you can just take a few seconds just to think about it, is when it comes to any conversation between a couple of people, or when a favor is required, or you need to actually ask a favor from somebody, I just want you to think about the power dynamics. So what would you think, or rather, who would you think has the leverage, the power, and the control between someone that's asking for something and the person that actually gets asked for something? So for example, if I'm talking to you and I need a favor from you, let's say I'm the person that actually asks you for a favor, who do you think has the leverage, the power, and control in that instance? I would say, or rather, I would want to assume, but not much of an assumption, I would think that most people would agree with me that basically is the person that is being asked that actually has the leverage, the power, and the control, because they actually reserve the right to either say yes or no to whatever that favor, request, or whatever the case might be in that situation, right? And that got me thinking, and I'm like, it's actually a very interesting point, because when you look at dating in democratic or Western countries, there is an interesting dynamic between men and women when it comes to leverage, power, and control, and also when it comes to employment as well. As for the dating scenario, it's actually interesting, because I was thinking about it and I was like, at every stage of the dating process till marriage, basically, the man actually has to be the one asking. It's basically the expectation from most people, which actually is interesting, because that would give the woman in this contest the right to say yes or no, rightfully so, right? It's very interesting. Like, if you start the process, the expectation would be the guy has to walk up to the lady and ask her out, right? And at this point, she reserves the right to say yes or no. After that, if she says yes, now he has to be the one to ask her either to be the girlfriend or get in a relationship, whatever the case might be. She reserves the right to say yes or no. And also, now when it comes to marriage, he also has to go down on one knee and ask her to marry him, and she reserves the right to say yes or no. So I guess you guys understand what I'm trying to get at here when it comes to the power dynamics up until marriage, which actually is very interesting, because I think most people actually understand this, because when you actually look at it, a lot of women would be proud or want to remind you, in the case that they are not married, that they have been proposed to or have been engaged a few times. even though it didn't end up in marriage. But that's also to let you know that they have the power, the leverage, and the control to actually say yes or no, or have been in those positions as well. So I think it's very interesting, because I think this is more obvious, but I've not actually heard people have conversations about it. But it begs a question to me, that at the whole stage of the dynamics between men and women, it's obvious in this dynamic that men actually have no leverage, control, or power to that decision making, unless there is something illegal in terms of forcefulness or coercion or something like that. Most often than not, the women basically have all the power, the leverage, and the control, except in unique cases, of course, when she actually does the asking, which is, we can say it's pretty rare, um, as well. And for the second part that I want to look at it, I just want to throw this in there basically, but it's the employer and the employee dynamic, and the fact that applications are actually posted, and you have to actually go through the process of sending in your resume. If you have ever gone through the process of searching for a job, you understand this power dynamic, where you are the one basically asking question, writing a cover letter, making sure your resume is up to date, going through several interviews. And yes, in this dynamic, the control, leverage, and power is usually with the employer. There is an exceptional case that it would be nice if most people experienced it, but you would have to earn that, right? An employer actually seeks out who they want to employ, sometimes due to the fact that they actually know the person on network, or somehow know or has an idea that this person, they actually want this person for a specific role. They actually go ahead and offer jobs to people. I think it's more common now, where people put their profiles on LinkedIn and stuff, and some employers actually go take a look at that and actually target such employees, right? And go searching for them. And if you've been in that situation, you would actually know that that's a beautiful place to be, when you're actually negotiating with that employer, knowing that they actually came looking for you because of what you can actually offer to them. But in general, in that power dynamic, that's very rare. That's for a few people. In general, if you're the employee looking for a job, you're going to have to jump through hoops, actually, to be considered for that job. But just wanted to throw that out there. Just want to keep it short. This is a new thing. It's called New Day, Same B.S, right? I think it's going to be interesting. Quick monologues. If you have watched this up to here, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Just don't forget, like, subscribe on YouTube. The podcast is also available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Go ahead, smash that notification, leave a comment in whatever platforms or social media or clips you find. I appreciate that. Want to have that conversation going. Thank you so much.